There exists within you right now a force more powerful than any army, more enduring than any fortress, and more precise than any instrument ever forged by human hands. That force is your mind. It is the unseen architect of your destiny, the silent engineer behind every triumph and every failure you have ever encountered. And yet, how few truly grasp its magnitude. How few recognize that to master the outer world, one must first master the inner. For every circumstance that has ever bound a man, every obstacle that has ever defeated him, has its root not in the external world, but within the confines of his own thought. Understand this: if you allow emotions to govern your actions, you forfeit your power. Anger, fear, doubt, and desire, they are tyrants that demand obedience, that whisper lies of limitation and impossibility. The man who reacts is a slave. The man who commands his thoughts is a master. The law is absolute. What you control within yourself, you command without yourself. If you refuse to submit to mental discipline, if you surrender your mind to fleeting feelings, then the universe will by default shape you into a replica of mediocrity. But if you take up the mantle of mastery over your own inner world, if you insist upon control, clarity, and detachment, then no external circumstance, no critic, no calamity can hold you back. The first principle of mastery over oneself is emotional detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference. Detachment means freedom. Freedom from the shackles of reaction, freedom from the chains of ungoverned desire, freedom from the tyranny of opinion. Consider the man who is consumed by anger. He acts not on strategy, but on impulse. He is a pawn of his own chemistry. He is predictable, reactive, and therefore weak. Contrast him with the man who remains calm in the storm, who observes the rage around him, yet does not absorb it, who assesses, calculates, and then acts with decisive authority. The latter is not merely a man, he is a force. Emotional detachment is not a retreat from life. It is an advance into its deepest layers, a conquest of its most treacherous terrains. It is the shield behind which all clarity is born. But detachment alone is insufficient. For freedom of the mind requires mental discipline. Discipline is the bridge between thought and action. It is the iron law that governs all achievement. A mind without discipline is like a river without banks. It spreads, dissipates, and accomplishes nothing. Every great achievement in history, every fortune amassed, every idea that reshaped nations has originated from a mind disciplined to act with purpose, consistency, and focus. Discipline is not punishment, it is empowerment. It is the sculptor's chisel that shapes raw desire into definitive accomplishment. Through discipline, your mind becomes a laboratory of creation where thoughts are experimented upon, refined, and manifested into reality. And what is the foundation of all mental discipline, if not definiteness of purpose? Purpose is the compass, the lighthouse that guides you through the fog of distraction, the storms of doubt, and the tempests of opposition. Without purpose, the most disciplined mind is merely a machine running in random directions. With purpose, the mind becomes a precision instrument, capable of piercing the impossible, capable of bending the circumstances of life to its will. Define your purpose with absolute clarity. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Let it consume your focus. Let it dominate your thoughts, for what occupies your mind becomes the axis of your existence. Yet even purpose and discipline are powerless if the mind is uncontrolled in its inner dialogue. Your self-talk is the language of destiny. If you speak to yourself with defeat, doubt, or fear, you prepare the ground for failure. If you speak to yourself with confidence, authority, and vision, you prime your subconscious to act in alignment with greatness. This is the essence of autosuggestion, the secret law that Napoleon Hill described as the most potent tool in the arsenal of human achievement. Repeat to yourself not what you fear, but what you intend. Feed your mind with images of success, with the unshakable certainty that your objectives are not merely possible, they are inevitable. The universe responds, always, to the clarity of thought, the intensity of belief, and the discipline of focus. Let us now confront the most insidious obstacle to mental mastery, the confusion of reaction with response. A man reacts. He is impulsive, undirected, a leaf in the storm. A man responds. He is deliberate, calculated, sovereign. Every situation presents two choices: to react or to respond. The man who reacts lives a life dictated by others, by circumstance, by emotion. The man who responds lives a life dictated by principle, by purpose, and by control of his inner world. Observe those who appear calm in chaos. Observe those who make fortunes while others panic. What distinguishes them is not luck, not talent, it is their refusal to surrender to reaction. They have mastered themselves, and through mastery of themselves, they bend the universe to their will. Now consider the law of mental neutrality, which governs the space between stimulus and action. Every situation confronts you with an immediate input: an insult, a setback, a loss, an opportunity. Between that stimulus and your action lies a pause, a fraction of a second in which power resides. Most men squander this pause in emotion. They react. The master uses this pause to observe, to calculate, to choose. This pause is the altar upon which all mastery is built. Cultivate the habit of conscious pause. In that fraction of a second, the universe itself awaits your decision, and your mind holds the power to transform chaos into opportunity. The next principle is the power of calmness. Calmness is the manifestation of control. It is the visible expression of internal command. The man who is calm radiates authority. He disarms opposition, he clarifies decisions, he sharpens perception. Calmness is not a denial of urgency, it is a channeling of intensity. Consider the general on the battlefield, whose composure turns the tide of battle, whose clarity amidst chaos allows him to seize victory where others see only disaster. Calmness is mastery, and mastery is the inevitable precursor to success. You must also understand that emotions are tools, not masters. Desire, fear, anger, and ambition are neutral forces. They can either enslave or serve depending on the control of the mind. The man who harnesses fear turns it into vigilance. The man who channels desire transforms it into relentless drive. The man who converts anger into focused action wields a weapon that others squander in destructive outburst. Control your emotions, and they become engines of achievement. Lose control, and they become chains of mediocrity. And yet, even these principles must be fused with the habit of accurate thinking. A mind disciplined and calm, guided by purpose yet blinded by assumption, is a machine without vision. Accurate thinking demands observation, analysis, and the courage to face reality unflinchingly. It demands the rejection of rumor, speculation, and the seductive illusions of immediate gratification. The master does not allow opinion, hearsay, or emotion to cloud judgment. He measures, he evaluates, he decides. He understands that reality is not what he hopes, but what is, and he acts accordingly. Accurate thinking is the compass that directs the disciplined mind toward achievement without error, without deviation, without surrender to falsehood. The man who commands his inner world wields a power invisible to the eye, yet invincible in effect. He understands that the mind is the crucible in which destiny is forged, and that mastery over thought is mastery over circumstance. To reach this mastery, one must embrace the principle of deliberate mental construction, the recognition that every thought planted in the mind is a seed, and that a disciplined mind is a garden in which only the seeds of purpose, clarity, and vision are allowed to grow. Neglect, disorder, and emotional chaos are weeds. They suffocate potential. They invite mediocrity. And they ensure that the man who does not master himself will wander aimlessly through the labyrinth of life, forever chasing what is outside, never realizing what lies within. Consider this truth. Your mind is not merely a witness to life. It is the instrument through which life itself is shaped. The thoughts you entertain today will, if left unchecked, become the circumstances you experience tomorrow. If you fill your mind with fear, you will see threats where there are none. If you fill your mind with doubt, you will invite failure. But if you fill your mind with absolute conviction, with precise intention, with the unwavering belief that your actions are aligned with a greater purpose, then every obstacle becomes a stepping stone, every challenge a lesson, every defeat a temporary pause before inevitable victory. The universe does not resist clarity. It does not defy purpose. It yields to the one who commands thought with precision, discipline, and resolve. Now, let us confront the illusion that success is external, that wealth, power, or acclaim are gifts bestowed by chance or by others. This is the folly of those who have surrendered their minds. True success begins not in banks, offices, or markets, but in the unseen chambers of thought. The man who masters his inner world achieves what others can only dream of because he is not at the mercy of circumstance. He understands that thought precedes action and action shapes reality. The chain is unbreakable. Dominate the mind, and you dominate the world. To wield this power, you must cultivate the art of conscious detachment. Observe the currents of life as a sailor observes the wind. Do not allow yourself to be tossed by the waves of opinion, insult, or misfortune. Stand firm at the helm of your inner vessel, adjusting sails with precision, directing energy with intelligence. The mind that reacts is a rudderless ship. The mind that responds is a ship that reaches its intended port, regardless of storms. Detachment is not coldness, it is command. It is the silence behind which all clarity is born, the stillness from which all action emerges. Without detachment, discipline collapses. Without detachment, purpose is diluted. Without detachment, the mind remains a servant to chaos. But detachment is only the beginning. It must be married to the practice of relentless focus. The world will demand your attention, distractions will assault your mind, and chaos will whisper incessantly. The man who succeeds is the man who refuses to scatter his energy. He concentrates like a laser on the single point that matters most, the objective that aligns with his purpose. Napoleon Hill said, and I echo with unwavering certainty, concentration of effort upon definite purpose is the very essence of success. Do not mistake activity for achievement. Do not confuse busyness with progress. Every moment spent in distraction is a moment stolen from destiny. Guard your mind. Defend your focus. Let all else fall away. The universe responds to precision. It rewards mastery. It obeys the deliberate. And now, consider the most dangerous enemy of all, self-deception. The unexamined mind is a field of lies, illusions, and softened realities. It tells itself that mediocrity is comfort, that fear is prudence, that hope without action is enough. These are the subtle poisons of the mind, the slow erosion of greatness. To conquer the inner world, one must engage in daily inspection, honest self-assessment, and courageous acknowledgement of weakness. The disciplined mind is ruthless in its honesty. It faces the shadow, it confronts the truth, and it acts with unwavering integrity. There is no compromise between mastery and mediocrity. You either dominate yourself or the world dominates you. Let us examine the mechanism of thought mastery. Every emotion, every reaction, every impulse is a signal. Do not suppress them. Do not indulge them. Observe them. Name them. Understand their origin. Then decide, will this serve the purpose or will it sabotage it? Fear can be transformed into foresight. Anger can be transmuted into action. Desire can be refined into drive. The man who controls his emotional landscape turns obstacles into fuel, resistance into momentum, and uncertainty into opportunity. Emotional detachment is not absence of feeling, it is the mastery of it. The man who masters this principle commands a power invisible yet absolute. Now we turn to the law of autosuggestion, the deliberate communication with the subconscious. The conscious mind is the commander, the subconscious is the army that carries out orders. What instructions are you giving it? Are they clear, precise, and consistent? Every affirmation, every repeated visualization, every act of belief is a reinforcement of the army within. Feed it with courage, clarity, and purpose. Feed it with images of success, not failure. Feed it with certainty, not doubt. For the subconscious obeys faithfully without question, without hesitation. It is a mirror to your discipline, a reflection of your dominance over thought. Fail to direct it, and it will obey external chaos. Command it, and it will manifest destiny. And yet there is one more principle often overlooked, often dismissed. That is the keystone of all mental control, the integration of action with thought. A mind without action is a tyrant without power. A mind disciplined in thought but idle in execution is a kingdom of illusion. The principles of emotional detachment, focus, discipline, and autosuggestion demand one thing: movement. Purpose without action is impotent. Clarity without execution is impotent. Calm without decision is impotent. The universe conspires not with the hesitant, the indecisive, or the distracted. It conspires with those who act with precision, informed by thought, guided by purpose, and unshaken by emotion. Take now a moment to envision your life as it could be, a life in which you are never ruled by fear, never distracted by doubt, never enslaved by fleeting emotion. A life in which your mind is a fortress of clarity, a laboratory of creation, a command center from which reality is shaped. The obstacles that once loomed like mountains shrink into steps. The chaos that once threatened like storms becomes a rhythm you navigate with ease. The challenges that once intimidated you dissolve before the force of your deliberate control. This is not fantasy. This is the result of mastery. This is the reward of relentless attention to the inner world. This is the promise of the mind obeyed. And so I command you, as one who has witnessed the laws of achievement in their purest form, take control of your mind or it will control you. Refuse to react. Refuse to surrender. Refuse to allow chaos, opinion, or fleeting desire to dictate your life. Discipline your thoughts. Command your emotions. Focus your energy. Affirm your purpose. Visualize your triumph. And act. Act decisively. Act relentlessly. Act with the calm certainty of a man who knows that the universe bends to the thought that masters itself. Remember this: no circumstance, no criticism, no calamity can alter the trajectory of a mind disciplined in thought, detached in emotion, and unwavering in purpose. The man who commands his inner world commands reality itself. The man who masters himself changes not only his life, but the universe around him. And you, now, stand at the threshold. Will you step through it, or will you remain bound by the very thoughts you have permitted to enslave you? The choice is yours. The law is absolute. The time is now. Rise, then, and take your rightful place as the master of your mind, the architect of your destiny, the force that changes the universe. Understand this fundamental truth. The mind is your only true possession. Every other thing, wealth, status, reputation, relationships, is transient, subject to decay, subject to the whims of circumstance. The mind, however, is indestructible when cultivated. It cannot be taken, stolen, or diminished unless you surrender it willingly. The man who protects and commands his mind becomes impervious to the temporary, the external, the superficial. He is untouchable not because the world bends to him, but because he has bent the world within himself. And here lies the secret known to all great achievers throughout history. Control your mind, and you control destiny itself. But mastery is not given. It is earned. And it begins with the relentless practice of self-observation. You must watch your thoughts as a general watches the battlefield. Do not allow idle emotions, petty judgments, or fleeting impulses to infiltrate your mental citadel. Observe them, name them, understand their origin. Are they born of fear, of habit, of desire? Are they productive or destructive? And then act, command, replace that which weakens you with that which strengthens. This is the first law of mental discipline. Know your mind, or it will know you in defeat. Next comes the principle of decisive mental alignment. The mind, left to wander without purpose, drifts toward mediocrity. The mind aligned with purpose, however, becomes a force of nature, relentless and unyielding. Align every thought, every intention, every moment of mental energy with a clear, defined objective. Napoleon Hill, in his timeless wisdom, said, "A man's mind may be likened to fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant, whether of fear, hope, faith, or doubt, will grow. Plant only those seeds which serve the harvest you intend to reap. Remove all that which does not. Weed ruthlessly. Nurture diligently. Only then will the mind become fertile ground for achievement." And let us speak plainly about emotional sovereignty. Many men are slaves to the whims of feeling, victims to the tyranny of circumstance. One day pride rules, the next day anger, the next fear, and then despair. These emotional oscillations are the shackles of those who fail to understand their own minds. Emotional sovereignty is the recognition that your response to any event is not determined by the event itself, but by your command of thought. You may be insulted, ignored, betrayed, or threatened, but only the thoughts you entertain in response grant those events power over you. If you master this, you become invincible. If not, you will forever be a puppet dangling from the strings of impulse, circumstance, and opinion. Consider now the mechanics of response versus reaction. Reaction is immediate, uncontrolled, and often destructive. It is the surrender to the primitive, the emotional, the unexamined. Response, however, is deliberate, calculated, and aligned with purpose. Reaction destroys opportunities. Response seizes them. Reaction drains energy. Response multiplies it. Reaction invites regret. Response commands results. The man who learns to respond, rather than react, becomes the architect of his life, the ruler of his circumstance, and the master of all he surveys. Every action must be preceded by thought. Every thought must be aligned with purpose, and every purpose must be grounded in principle. This is not theory. It is law. It is principle. It is the architecture of unstoppable success. Let us examine the law of deliberate mental framing. Every thought is a lens through which you perceive the world. Are you perceiving limitation or possibility? Are you framing yourself as victim or victor? Are you casting blame or taking responsibility? The man who frames his thoughts correctly creates reality in alignment with his ambition. The man who allows his mind to wander, to be influenced by circumstance, to adopt the narratives of others, becomes a slave to their imagination rather than the master of his own. Mental framing is the unseen hand that shapes destiny. Every morning, every night, every moment of awareness, ask yourself, am I framing this in service of my purpose, or am I yielding to chaos? The answer determines everything. Now, let us move to the art of internal dialogue. The conversation you hold with yourself, silent, unseen, continuous, is more powerful than any speech delivered in public. It is the training ground of belief, the forge of habit, and the birthplace of courage. Speak to yourself as a leader speaks to his troops, with clarity, confidence, and command. Repeat affirmations not as idle words, but as deliberate instructions to the subconscious. Visualize outcomes not as fantasies, but as imperatives to which your mind must respond. Every doubt dismissed, every fear observed and neutralized, every intention clarified, strengthens the internal army you command. Weak internal dialogue produces weak external results. Strong internal dialogue produces unstoppable action. There is no exception. And now, let us confront the subtle danger of comfort. Comfort is the sedative of the mind. It whispers that mediocrity is acceptable, that delay is harmless, that effort beyond the minimum is unnecessary. Yet every man who has achieved greatness has done so by rejecting comfort, by embracing discipline, by moving willingly into the discomfort of challenge, risk, and sacrifice. The mind that is untested remains fragile. The mind that is disciplined through adversity becomes a weapon forged in fire. Seek challenges deliberately. Welcome resistance deliberately. Stand in discomfort deliberately. Every test endured becomes a monument of inner strength, and every obstacle overcome becomes a testament to your mastery over self. Do not overlook the power of clarity and purpose. To dominate your inner world, you must know exactly what you seek. Vagueness is the enemy of achievement. Indecision is the thief of destiny. Those who succeed do so not because they act randomly, but because they act with precision, informed by absolute clarity. Ask yourself, what is my purpose? What is my single defining goal? What is the measure of my success? Answer without compromise, without equivocation, and without hesitation. Then align every thought, every emotion, every action with this purpose. Your mind, now armed with clarity and discipline, becomes a weapon that no circumstance can deflect. And here is a truth often ignored. Control over the inner world transforms external conditions. The storms of life, the betrayals, the setbacks, the failures do not vanish. But the man who has mastered himself remains unshaken. He does not curse adversity, he uses it. He does not despair in defeat. He studies it, learns from it, and turns it into the next step toward victory. The world does not yield to complaints or lamentation. It yields to action informed by thought and executed with unflinching discipline. Emotional detachment is not passive. It is the foundation of unshakable effectiveness. It is the calm from which extraordinary action emerges. It is the power that makes ordinary men extraordinary. And so, I call upon you, listen not with the ears of convenience, but with the mind of command. Take control, command your thoughts, observe your emotions, align your purpose, direct your internal dialogue, reject mediocrity, embrace discipline, visualize relentlessly, act decisively, respond wisely. Master this, and you will not merely survive, you will create. You will not merely endure, you will conquer. You will not merely exist, you will manifest the universe you choose, not the one circumstance imposes. For in truth, the mind is the lever, thought is the force, discipline is the method, emotional detachment is the key. Align these, and you will achieve the impossible, because what is impossible to the undisciplined mind is inevitable to the mind that commands itself. You are now armed with understanding. The law is clear. The principle is absolute. The choice is yours. Will you dominate your mind and through it the universe? Or will you allow the currents of thought, emotion, and circumstance to dictate the course of your life? Decide, act, persist. And in doing so, you will know the invincible power of a mind mastered. Consider now the hidden architecture of thought, an invisible citadel where the seeds of destiny are sown. Every great achievement in history was first conceived as a thought, nurtured in the recesses of a disciplined mind, and then forged into reality through unrelenting action. Alexander the Great did not conquer because he wielded the sword. He conquered because his mind had already mapped every battlefield, anticipated every resistance, and visualized victory before a single army clashed. The law is universal. The mind precedes all external triumphs. Fail to master it, and every effort becomes a gamble. Command it, and every circumstance bends in service of your vision. Do not be deceived by the illusion of control in the external world. Fortune favors the prepared, the decisive, and the internally sovereign. Men who surrender their thoughts to fear, doubt, or fleeting desire remain trapped in mediocrity, while those who govern their inner world rise above the tides of chance and circumstance. Emotional detachment is not the denial of feeling. It is the strategic management of feeling, the ability to observe without surrendering, to act without impulse, to choose without hesitation. Every moment you allow emotion to dictate action, you forfeit power. Every moment you command emotion, you reclaim it. Let us examine the principle of deliberate focus. A mind scattered by distractions is like a flame blown by the wind, weak, unstable, and ultimately extinguished. A mind focused with unwavering intensity is a laser, cutting through obstacles, illuminating paths, and transforming vision into reality. Guard your attention as a sovereign guards the treasury of his realm. Every diversion, every idle thought, every indulgence in triviality steals energy from the fortress of your mind. Concentrate relentlessly, and you harness the inexhaustible power of deliberate mental direction. Now, turn your attention to the art of self-command in adversity. Life, in its relentless impartiality, tests all who aspire. The storm does not cease for the weak, the mountain does not lower for the hesitant, time does not pause for the unprepared. Yet, the mind that is disciplined, detached, and purpose-driven transforms adversity into opportunity. The man mastered by his mind does not lament challenges. He welcomes them, for in challenge lies the proving ground of greatness. Pain, loss, betrayal, these are not enemies but instruments. Learn their language, convert them into lessons, transform them into fuel. Every trial endured becomes a testament to your inner mastery, and every obstacle overcome is a proclamation of sovereignty over self and circumstance. The mind's most formidable adversary, however, is habitual thinking. Unexamined patterns of thought, repeated without purpose, shape character and destiny more than any external circumstance. Observe your daily mental habits. Are they constructive or destructive? Do they align with your purpose or scatter your energy? Replace the automatic with the deliberate, transform routine thought into disciplined reflection. Let every repetition serve mastery, every habit reinforce strength, and every day become an exercise in commanding your internal world. Remember, excellence is not achieved in sporadic moments of brilliance, but in the consistency of disciplined thought and action. We must now confront the subtle, corrosive power of fear. Fear is not merely an emotion. It is a thief, a parasite, a chain around the mind. It whispers, it distracts, it paralyzes. But fear, observed with detachment and confronted with clarity, loses all dominion. When you face fear deliberately, dissect it with reason, and refuse to act under its sway, you neutralize its power. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the mastery of fear through disciplined thought and unwavering purpose. Every man who has moved the world, every leader, innovator, and pioneer has done so not because they were fearless, but because they refused to yield to fear. Attention now turns to the principle of internal dialogue and affirmation. What you tell yourself day after day, moment after moment, forms the architecture of your subconscious. Idle or negative self-talk is an unseen saboteur. Deliberate, disciplined affirmation is the tool of architects of destiny. Speak to yourself with precision. Declare your objectives as facts, not wishes. Visualize success as inevitability, not possibility. Train your mind to accept only that which serves your highest purpose. Through repetition, thought solidifies into belief. Belief solidifies into action, and action transforms destiny. Let us embrace the philosophy of measured emotional investment. Passion, desire, and ambition are the fuel of greatness, yet unbridled emotion clouds judgment, distorts perception, and invites error. Learn to temper enthusiasm with reason, excitement with reflection, and energy with clarity. Emotional detachment does not dull your ambition, it amplifies it. It allows you to direct every ounce of energy with precision, to act decisively without hesitation, and to remain unshaken by the chaos of the external world. The man who feels without surrendering, who acts without distraction, who thinks without compromise, commands the extraordinary. Finally, understand this. Control of the mind is the ultimate leverage over life itself. Wealth, influence, achievement, and legacy are all byproducts of mastery over self. Without this mastery, every advantage is squandered, every opportunity missed, every ambition diluted. With this mastery, a single individual can move mountains, shape destinies, and leave a mark on history that endures beyond life itself. Remember the words of the wise. Mastery of self is mastery of the universe. It is not hyperbole. It is law. It is inevitable. It is waiting for those who have the courage, the discipline, and the relentless determination to claim it. And so, take command, observe relentlessly, discipline with precision, focus with intensity, frame your thoughts deliberately, respond, never react, convert adversity into power, transform fear into courage, speak to yourself with authority, act with unwavering purpose. And through this relentless, unbroken mastery of your internal world, you will not merely achieve success, you will become unstoppable, the architect of your destiny, and the master of a universe shaped by the power of your mind alone. Every man who has changed the course of history has understood this immutable truth. Thought precedes action, and action shapes destiny. The universe responds not to wishful thinking or idle desire, but to deliberate, disciplined, and purposeful thought. Your mind is the fulcrum upon which the lever of reality rests. If you allow it to be swayed by fear, doubt, or the opinions of others, you remain powerless, a passenger on the currents of circumstance. If, however, you seize it, command it, and align it with a clear and unyielding purpose, you become an architect of reality, a force against which no obstacle can stand. Understand this and understand it fully. Emotions are the servants, not the masters of reason. Yet too often men elevate their feelings above their intellect, surrendering power to anger, resentment, pride, or envy. Emotional detachment is not indifference. It is the conscious elevation of reason above impulse, of strategy above instinct, of the chosen course above the fleeting thrill of reaction. Observe every emotion as it arises. Name it. Judge its usefulness. If it serves your purpose, harness it. If it does not, release it without hesitation. The moment you claim this power, you are liberated from the tyranny of circumstance. You become the calm within the storm, the axis around which chaos revolves without ever touching you. Let us now consider the law of mental resilience. Life is unrelenting. Setbacks, betrayals, losses, and failures are inevitable. The man who succumbs to these forces is swept away like driftwood upon a torrent. The man who masters his mind transforms these same forces into instruments of progress. Every failure becomes a lesson, every criticism a guide, every loss a catalyst for growth. The foundation of this resilience is detachment. Detachment allows you to face adversity with clarity, to act with precision, and to respond without the paralysis of fear or resentment. It is not escape, it is strength concentrated. And here is the principle that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The mind that is mastered creates its own reality. Your thoughts shape your perception guides your actions, and your actions forge your destiny. The man who thinks small achieves small. The man who thinks large, deliberately, and with disciplined imagination achieves the extraordinary. Napoleon Hill insisted that definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all achievement. Yet even the clearest purpose is powerless without the companion of emotional control and disciplined thought. Purpose without self-mastery is a ship without a rudder, destined to drift aimlessly upon the seas of circumstance. Observe now the mechanics of focused intention. Every moment your mind entertains a thought, it expends energy. Every ounce of energy directed toward clarity, toward solution, toward disciplined action compounds upon itself. Every ounce of energy wasted on distraction, complaint, or indecision erodes your power. Mental discipline is therefore not abstract. It is measurable, tangible, and accumulative. It is the habit of directing thought with ruthless efficiency, ensuring that every moment, every intention, every act of imagination serves the edifice of your ambition. Consider the principle of internal equilibrium. A mind in constant agitation, whether by fear, doubt, desire, or resentment, is ineffective. It is reactive rather than creative, defensive rather than proactive. To achieve mastery, one must cultivate the state of calm alertness, where thought is clear, judgment is precise, and action is decisive. This calm is not weakness, it is the fortress of power. From this stillness emerges clarity, and from clarity emerges action that is unstoppable in precision and relentless in execution. Let us speak plainly about the architecture of self-command. Every thought, every emotion, every habit, every action is a brick in the fortress of character. Build carelessly, and the structure is weak, vulnerable, and prone to collapse. Build deliberately, and the fortress becomes impenetrable, a monument to self-discipline and a bulwark against chaos. Guard the mind as you would guard the treasury of a kingdom. Allow no intruder, no idle fancy, no destructive pattern to gain entry. Strengthen the walls of resolve. Fortify the gates of clarity. Maintain vigilance. Every thought unchecked is a crack in the foundation. Every habit unexamined a chink in the armor. Now confront the truth of personal initiative. To act only when compelled by circumstance is to surrender power. To act proactively, with thought, purpose, and strategy is to seize it. Initiative is the companion of discipline. It is the engine of progress, the spark that transforms intention into reality. The disciplined mind does not wait for opportunity. It creates it, recognizes it instantly, and mobilizes resources without hesitation. A mind that is detached yet alert, disciplined yet flexible, is unstoppable in its ability to command outcomes. Consider also the dynamic of internal visualization. Every great achievement is preceded by a mental rehearsal, a vision so vivid, so detailed, that the mind begins to accept it as inevitable. Napoleon Hill described this as the process by which desire crystallizes into reality through the power of thought and belief. But visualization alone is insufficient without detachment and discipline. It must be accompanied by action, sustained focus, and unwavering command of emotion. The mind cannot differentiate between what is imagined with purpose and what is experienced in reality. Harness this power, and your vision begins to shape external reality, attracting people, circumstances, and resources into alignment with your intention. And now, the principle of relentless self-correction. The disciplined mind constantly examines itself. Every failure, every hesitation, every misstep is observed, analyzed, and corrected. This is not self-criticism, it is strategic refinement. The man who does not correct himself repeats mistakes. The man who does correct himself grows exponentially. Self-mastery is therefore iterative. It requires vigilance, honesty, and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths. There is no plateau, no ceiling, no end to the potential of a mind that practices relentless self-examination. Finally, understand the ultimate synthesis: mental mastery, emotional detachment, clarity of purpose, disciplined visualization, deliberate action, and relentless self-correction coalesce into an unstoppable force. This is not theory. It is law. It is principle. It is the foundation upon which empires are built, innovations are conceived, and legacies endure. Every man who achieves greatness does so because he commands himself first. External conditions are secondary. Internal mastery is primary. The universe yields not to weakness, whim, or indecision. It yields to the mind that commands itself without compromise. You are now equipped with understanding. Observe without surrender. Discipline without exception. Focus without wavering. Frame your thoughts with precision. Respond with purpose. Transform adversity into power. Neutralize fear. Speak to yourself with authority. Act decisively. And through this relentless command of your inner world, you will achieve the extraordinary. You will not merely participate in life, you will shape it, direct it, and master it, leaving a mark that endures beyond circumstance, beyond time, and beyond the limitations of ordinary men. And so, remember this final truth: the dominion over self is the dominion over all else. No wealth, no influence, no title, no circumstance can compare to the power of a mind that refuses to be shaken. The man who masters his thoughts commands his actions. The man who commands his actions commands his destiny. Emotional detachment is the shield that preserves clarity, mental discipline, the engine that drives progress, and the mastery of the inner world, the foundation upon which all external success rests. Do not wait for conditions to be favorable. Do not look for permission from circumstance, society, or the opinions of others. Success does not inquire. It arrives for those prepared. Seize your mind, seize your thoughts, seize your purpose, guard it fiercely, nurture it relentlessly, and act upon it decisively. From this mastery, from this unyielding sovereignty over self, flows every power, every achievement, every triumph you could imagine. This is the law, immutable and eternal. He who masters himself masters the universe. Let the world rage, let obstacles rise, let fear whisper its empty warnings. You will remain unshaken, unbroken, unstoppable. Every step you take, every thought you command, every action you initiate will carve the path to greatness. And in that path lies the fulfillment of your potential, the realization of your purpose, and the proof that a single, disciplined, detached, and determined mind can indeed change the universe.